Hi, all. Welcome back. Last week, we talked about healing relationships and how when we're less reactive, that helps others feel safer and feel more open and helps us build relationships better and improve the ones that we're working on and are meaningful to us. So, did you notice in your efforts to uh, look for ways to improve and recognize any struggles that you had or any successes that you had this week as you're thinking about building your relationships?
I noticed in just dealing with some people, I was thinking more about just sitting back and letting them say what they needed to say and whatever, not, or when they tell me they're going to do something, not giving them either a or a big positive or negative, just being neutral, and so they can feel comfortable with whatever they've decided they need to do, instead of feeling like they need to please me in some way.
Oh, I love it. That's an interesting thought. I didn't think about that side of things. But that did that help you feel like you were clearer and steadier and made that space for them?
Yeah, and not giving the reaction, um, made me feel more neutral too. Made me feel more peaceful about it instead of trying to judge what my reaction should be.
Nice. So it took some pressure off you too.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. Anybody else?
I will share. Okay. So this last week, I noticed. So to just not be okay with expressing anger. And so then it would be like, so people around me like wouldn't always know like when things weren't okay. And so this time, like I was like expressing stuff that was going on, and my husband was in a place that he was like able to just tell me, he's like, you are being aggressive, like even passive aggressive right now. So I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I am. And so like we were able to discuss things and to express, and like, this is like what's going on, this is how I'm feeling. And to know that like the feeling that was just a temporary thing. So it wasn't, oh no, now I feel that's just, I'm feeling this right now about this thing, because there were some major decisions that are going on in our house right now.
So what did you do to rein in that aggression that he was perceiving?
It was kind of like I just needed to be expressed, like strong feelings, strong emotions about like something, and that I didn't have to defend it, to be like, oh no, I wasn't like anything. It was just like, hey, that's what that was.
Mm.
And I didn't have to continue feeding that emotion. Like, it's there, the issue is still there and being taken care of, hopefully. Like as as more things are being done and more choices made. But that it was like, I'm usually the safe place for other people, and I don't find safe spaces for myself very often. So that was a new experience for me.
So did he respond well to that?
He did. Like, I could tell he was upset, but it wasn't like a triggering like spiral like it would have been in the past.
That's awesome. Bless his heart. So I love that because you were able to recognize that you had a reaction, you were able to separate from it, recognize what it was for, and that it accomplished its purpose. And thank goodness your sweetheart didn't react to that so that you could feel safe and not feel defensive and move forward. That's awesome. I love that. All right. Anybody else want to share about their experiences about trying to build a better relationship this last week and not being reactive.
I will. Um, I've had a hard time setting boundaries for myself on what I will and will not accept and take. And once I set those clear boundaries on what is acceptable, what is not, and then told my husband what the boundaries were, things have changed completely. It feels like a weight has come off his shoulders as well, because now he knows what he can and cannot expect from me.
Love
And
that.
so it has been huge because, you know, there's no more guessing on his part. And I feel like he's been guessing for a long time.
Wow, what
So
a gift.
it was great.
Isn't that amazing that setting boundaries for ourselves and our own preservation and our own sanity can actually bless and free other people?
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, and think about what it will do with children. We set boundaries for our children and it gives them freedom.
Indeed.
God sets boundaries with us and it gives us freedom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was my new insight on that.
Love it. Thank you. That's great. All right. Well, this week I have a bold invitation. This is something that is new, a new approach, a new insight, a new, well, I kind of live this way, but as far as boldly inviting other people to do this, I haven't done before. I feel strongly that we have been feeling promptings to act on something in our lives. And some of us may recognize those promptings or may not. You may recognize that prompting, that impression, but also recognize the blocks preventing you from acting on it. So I want to walk you through an exercise today, just a brief little exercise to help you identify what is the thing that has been nagging at you, impressing upon you to do that you haven't taken action on yet. So get out your notebooks and write down, it can be a few notes. If you're not quite sure what that one thing is, or at least the strongest one or the immediate one, write down a few thoughts and see if you can identify if there has been, because I really feel like there has, what impression has been nagging at you to encourage you to act on that you haven't yet. Feel free to share as soon as you've identified what that thing is.
Mine is getting healthy, gaining strength, becoming more limber, and obviously losing weight will come with that. But I have felt this for a while and definitely have blocks on doing it. So, but that's just screaming in my head.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Who else has identified that thing that's been trying to nudge them?
First thing that popped in my head, and when I started trying to think of something else, it wasn't working, is in family history.
Love it.
I am just, I don't know how. And so that's what keeps stopping me is I need to learn how.
Okay.
So I need to get started. I need to find someone to help me learn.
Awesome. That's a great one. All right. Anybody else identified that thing that's been nudging them?
Mine has to do with presenting, like learning how to present myself well and my business, like what I can do for people in a way that's still nourishing and sustainable for me and my family.
Love it. That's important. Great, great, great. All right. Now that you've identified what this nudging is, take a minute and write down what blocks you feel, what obstacles are in the way, whether they're internal or external. And as soon as you identify those, feel free to share.
So I feel like probably one of my biggest blocks has been if I do this and have more help, then I'm going to be responsible for doing more work. And also if I think one of the reasons that's held me back is that I already push myself quite a bit, and the only downtime I get is when I don't feel good. So if I feel good, there's a fear there that I will just have to work so much harder, which is false, but I think that feels like that's the underlying issue that's really been stopping me.
Wow, that's real. I can relate to that. I remember when I first healed from everything, I realized how many times feeling sick protected me from an event or a situation that was uncomfortable. And I didn't think about it then, but looking back on it, I found that times after I was well, realizing it was hard to face those things because I didn't have something obvious that couldn't allow me to participate. And that was hard. That took a lot of courage to face that new freedom, right? Because now I'm responsible for my choice because it's up to me whether I want to or not. It's not made for me. That's a big one. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, anybody else? What blocks are you recognizing?
Well, I don't know how to do it, but also I know me. I'm kind of afraid that once I start doing it, I'll be totally addicted to it and spend all my time sitting at the computer doing it.
Oh, how about that?
I
Okay.
know my personality.
Okay, so you recognize you could go find somebody to help you figure it out, but
Yeah.
the deeper block is fear that you would get stuck in it and overly attached to it.
Or that I would be no good at it, that I won't find anything.
Oh, that's true too. Because it could you could get really attached and it mean a lot to you, and then to be to struggle making it work, that would be really disappointing.
Yeah. And COVID has made it harder to get together with people to learn how, because you really need to sit with somebody and do it. You can't just, it's hard over the phone or whatever to learn how to do something like that. Like you need to see it.
Yeah, but doesn't that feel more like an excuse?
Oh, yeah.
So I think what you identified is really important, that tendency toward getting addicted to something. That's something that you should write in your notebook to work on consciously. I mean, that's a great awareness to focus on, whether it's every day or when you feel strong or whatever it is, start going through the journey framework with that topic to start learning what are the factors contributing to having that tendency, what messages can you learn from it, what external things can you do to help you move away from that and resolve it, and then what internal things can heal. And you'll probably need to go through that cycle several times to work through it, but I think that's surfacing right now for a reason. So that's great. That's a great insight. All right. Anybody else want to share about the blocks that they're feeling and recognizing that are preventing them from acting on impressions to move forward?
I'm noticing it's kind of a like bitter energy of just like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And tying in with what both the other ladies shared, how it's like, this is going to be more work for me. This is going to be more responsibility. This might be taking responsibility or like enabling someone else. And it's like, I don't know if I want to ride that whole train of like all the commitments that this will entail. There's a little bit of like, okay, it's not good enough, like not ready. But the biggest is the just like the motivation behind it is like my business. I'm like, I just wanted to be happy. And now it's like, because like my business needs to grow, or they think it does, or it's getting nudged to. I'm like, but that wouldn't make me happy. So like, that was my reason for like, so it's kind of a little selfish circle right in there.
Okay. Wow, that feels complicated. So now that we've identified a lot of these pieces, a lot of these obstacles, make a note about what messages you're feeling are coming. What messages are you hearing that help you understand what's at the root of this challenge? If you want to share, you can, but I know this one can be a little bit more personal, a little bit more vulnerable. So you're welcome to, but I won't call on anyone for sure.
Will you repeat the instruction?
So we're going through the journey framework, right? We identified some of these blocks, and now see if you can glean the message. What lesson is in this challenge for you to learn right now?
You know, it's interesting because the thought that first came to mind was that it is okay to have fun in other areas. And because I do enjoy my work. And so it's not hard for me to push and move forward because I like it. But the message is that there's nothing wrong with stopping and taking breaks, and that I just have to choose that that is okay. To quit, you know, to get out of the mindset, to heal the stuff that says you have to be working when you feel good. If you feel good, you have to work. So it's like, just heal that and then choose to take breaks when you need breaks.
Love it.
So much simpler than I was making it out to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the insight was great, that I'm thinking, great, now I've got all this work to do on that. I tend to overbuild.
Yeah.
I can simplify. I've been learning to simplify. It's just keep going, keep simplifying things. I don't have to make it harder. I don't have to work harder to get things to work.
Awesome. Take your power back.
Heal that mind. Yeah, just heal that mindset and choose. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you. After you get that message and you make that note and learn what you need to learn from this, then start identifying what are the external pieces that you need to do in order to help resolve it. What if it's just start acting on this impression, then start acting on it. If you have identified pieces that are key with the blocks, then write down how to move past those blocks. Identify the external steps. And then if you may have a longer list depending on what that block was, depending on what the prompting was. Write those down. And then in a minute, we'll focus on one of the other words in the Life Above the Line techniques to help you focus on removing blocks to moving forward. I'll give you just a minute to write down the rest of your thoughts there in the make the change phase. All right. as you identify these external options to solving this problem, move now into the internal pieces that are blocking you from moving forward. And from what it sounds like, there's things like false beliefs, paradigms that are short-circuiting, fears, and stress. These are things that we can heal, right? A lot of them we can use release for and even restore. And sometimes we've got positive paradigms that are not strong enough, and so we can use strengthen. And remember, all of these words are just simply ways to focus your intention to resolve the problem. Sometimes the blocks that inhibit us from moving forward and acting on impressions, especially ones that come in this way, that feel important, that feel meaningful, that you recognize as key in something, we need to remove the negative energetic influence that is tripping us up, that is short-circuiting that flow as we try to move forward. So this negative energy could be anything from negative people, people that are good but say negative things and kind of discourage us or squash us, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. It can also be influence from the adversary trying to hold us back from progressing. Whatever it is, whatever that negative influence is, we want to be able to remove it. And as we look at the things on our to-do list, we look at the blocks, we look at this whole picture that we've created here about moving from what this prompting was, and then why we're not acting on it, and then what we really need to learn from it, and then making a plan, right? These external things. What is the plan to move forward through this? Now let's go back, and whatever is in that space that needs to be removed, we can do that. So take just a minute, and in addition to the other words, or even if you feel just focusing on remove is the right way to go, just remember to think remove and breathe. Think about the agitation, the resistance, the things that are trying to squash you or hold you back, and think remove and breathe. Keep repeating until you start feeling freer or lighter or brighter or happier or motivated. You might feel like a slingshot effect where you're ready to get going. One more time, remove and breathe. All right. Feel free to share what you are receiving, what insights you're receiving, what feelings you're experiencing.
I'm a little still in the middle of it. Still
Oh.
breathing.
All right. Does it feel like you're making progress?
Yes, it kind of feels like I'm trying to clean up like 4 different messes at once.
All right. Does that feel right? Or does it feel like there's something else you need to identify?
I'm not sure if it needs a sequence for me.
Is that 4 things clarity and feeling good? Or is the 4 things confusing and feeling overwhelming?
They're confusing.
Okay. So there's something else you need to understand here. So maybe take a breath and ask the question, what is it I need to know about what's going on here? Or maybe even ask, is this interference fighting against me resolving it?
Some is interference. There is also more I get to learn.
Awesome. Would you like help with that, or would you want to just take notes on it and work on it?
I'm feeling kind of stuck.
So what's the first thought that's coming as you're looking at these 4 things?
And I hadn't even quite seen them. I just knew that they were there. So some of the internal ones, there's a little bit of different direction. So like strengthen this,
Mhm.
forgive that, heal
Mhm.
this, release this. And my intention isn't going all of those ways nicely at once. So
Okay. So ask if you can package all of them into one bubble, or if you need to work on each one individually.
I think most of them can be packaged, and then there's one more to do separately after that.
Okay, perfect. All right, give that a whirl and let me know if you need more help.
Okay.
Great. Anybody else?
I guess that my fear is my fear is decreasing. I feel less and less scared of being healthy. So it's not all the way gone yet, but my strength is starting to override my fear.
Nice. Well, amazing things happen when you get rid of your fear. So I can imagine this is a big one for you to work down.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Awesome. So any questions before we start wrapping up? We've got you a plan to move forward to finally address this thing that has been maybe even nagging at you, but at least impressing upon you and whispering to you to start acting on. We've worked through the journey framework. And remember, sometimes we need to go through the journey framework a number of times because there's not usually just one root cause at the base of a challenge. More often than not, there are several. And this journey framework helps us work through each root cause that is contributing to that challenge. So above all, be nice to yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Somebody I was talking to this week was struggling to heal some things because it triggered feelings of worthlessness, powerlessness. It made them feel defective and flawed. And that's not what we're doing here. That's not at all what's happening. We're good people. There's so much good in us that it's not a question of whether we're valuable or not, or are defective. It really is about we are who we are, and we have challenges. And these challenges are not us. These obstacles and blocks and resistance and difficulties are not us. They are things out here that we are experiencing. So remember that can help, is to separate you from the challenge. I am separate from my fears. I am over here and my anxieties are over here. I am still and good. I am experiencing a short circuit of some sort, but it's out here, so I can look at it and I can analyze it and keep it separate. That helps it be easier to understand, learn from, and change and heal. I mean, especially when you think about the changing aspect, because if we always think we have to change ourselves, then that can mess with that internal dialogue. We're not changing us. We're changing tendencies. We're changing weaknesses. We're changing challenges. We're changing behaviors, which still isn't us. a behavior still isn't a person. A behavior is a thing that illustrates a wound or a strength in a person, right? We're always motivated by either pain or love. What is underneath your motivations? Is it out of fear, a wound, a pain of some sort? Or are you motivated by love and a desire for reconciliation or peace or strength or service, right? It's a good self-awareness. What's motivating your actions? What's motivating your behaviors? And even if you're motivated by pain in certain circumstances, it still doesn't make you a bad person. It means you've got some pain to work through, and that's okay. So this is not judgment, right? From the very beginning of these calls, we've talked about this, how this work is not about self-judgment. That's not our job. There's a God to take care of that. And he's not going to leave us hanging either. This is about a self-awareness and the things that prevent us from being where we want to be, things that prevent us from being who we want to be, and things that make it hard for us to do what we want to do when we feel inspired to do and nudged to do. So remember that as you're writing down these negative things, these aren't you. These are things that have been placed in your path to give you an opportunity to work through, learn from, and grow from. That's the point of life. Life isn't meant to squash you. Life is meant to help you grow. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up?
I'm realizing that one of the things I'm experiencing is grief
Really?
about, yeah, what expectations that I had and like the way that I thought my needs were going to be met.
Wow. Wow. What an awareness. So that you can kind of pull out of you, right? And work that down, work that through, learn from it, heal it. And then that will probably help other things feel more clear again, don't you think?
Hope so.
Yeah. And if there's another thing after that, then you recognize that and you work on that. Do you think you have it, or would you like some more help?
I think it's just processing through and continuing to ask the questions.
That's life.
Yeah.
That's life. Bless your heart, sweetheart. You've got this.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, I invite you, as you move forward this week, to keep acting on the prompting that you receive and the impressions that come. Keep healing and clearing the path and opening up the way so that you can accomplish this goal, this new impression. Strengthen your abilities to accomplish it, to keep that momentum. And remember to keep notes in your notebook, write stuff on the mirror, keep Post-its around. Remember to validate your efforts and this journey that you're on. Because I tell you what, not everybody is ready or willing to face their challenges like you all are. It's not easy. Healing is not for the faint of heart. And the things that you're engaging in take faith, they take courage, they take a new level of commitment to improving the quality of your life. And I honor you for that. And I'm grateful for you and all the efforts that you put in to beautifying your life and your path. So thank you so much for being on the call this week. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Yeah.